श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। क्रतुण्डमहाकाय सूर्यकोटिसमप्रभ निर्विघ्नं गुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषयवपुरोगिणां निधे सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। व्यासम् अष्टनप्तारं शक्ते पत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं दुभोनिधिं। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं। नारायणपुरो व्यक्तादण्डमव्यक्तसम्भवं मण्डस्यान्तस्तु मे लोकाः सप्तद्वीपा च मेधिनीं। पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणे स्वयं व्यासेन कृतं पुराणमुनिनां मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीमष्टादशाध्यायिनीं त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवेद्वेषिणीं। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्। अवतीर्णश्च कालट्यां केदारेन्तरितश्चेह चिदस्फीडप्रतिष्ठादायिताच्चङ्गरो गुरुः। So we were previously looking at the 24th shloka. So Brahmarpam Brahmahavir Brahmagno Brahmanahutam Brahmaivatena Gantavyam Brahmakrama Samadhinah. So here again that sannyasi, he remaining satisfied. We looked at previously in the 22nd, 23rd shloka that whatever that comes unasked, he with equanimity, equipoised, whether under success or failure, he performs his actions, and without any desire for results, he performs those actions. And such a person whose mind is fixed in the jnana, actions undertaken, those actions get samagram praviliyate. As we looked at, those actions completely get destroyed. So the actions undertaken for a sacrifice get destroyed. And then we looked at Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir, that shloka, 24th shloka, where Bhagavan demolishes in that or clearly says that in various places the idea of difference among the actions, accessories, results, those things will not be there for that sannyasi, for that one who is in that state, who sees Brahman in everything. And it is also seen in that in the case of rites such as Agnihotra and so on, which are undertaken for results as a Kamya Karma, that Agnihotra and those things also cease to be rites undertaken for selfish motives when the desire for the results is destroyed. So we looked at that as well, and also we've seen that actions done intentionally or unintentionally, they yield different results. So in the case of the one who has ideas of distinction among the accessories, like for example ladle and so on, right? Agni and Utam, what is being offered, and Brahmana who is performing, and all those things. So who sees those things as different things, the actions and results, those are eliminated by the knowledge of Brahman. Even the activities which are simply external movement, they result in terms as become as inaction. They become as akarma. So that's why Bhagavan says that they get totally destroyed. Samagram praviliyate. So in the 23rd shloka, so because he performs all those things, everything is performed with the knowledge, and everything is seen as a Brahman. So the accessories or the medium or the method or whatever that he performs, all those things, they are considered as inaction. So that's what we looked at. And Bhagavan now explains the other type of yajnas, sacrifices affected by the karma. So here in the 24th shloka, Brahmarpanam Brahmahavir, Bhagavan shows that this knowledge as a yajna, jnana yajna, is presented here, and other sacrifices also yajnas also he mentions in the next set of verses, starting with Daivameva Pare Yajnam in that shloka, 25th shloka. He starts that. He shows all the other types of yajnas just to show that this jnana yajna is the superior, which is what he comes back towards the end of this chapter, this adhyaya. So with that, we will look at the 25th shloka, which is 25th shloka of this one. Daivameva pare yajnam yoginah paryupasate brahmagnava pare yajnam yajnenaivopajuhvati. So other yogis undertake yajnas to devatas alone. Others offer to self, Brahman, as a sacrifice by the self itself in the fire of Brahman. So that's the meaning. Daivam means the devatas, eva is indeed, apare others, yajnam sacrifice, yoginaha means spiritual, the yogis, the practitioners, yoga practitioners, paryupasate means worship, Brahma is the Brahman, supreme Brahman, agno means in the fire, in the agni. Again, fire is the wrong term, so just to be clear, agni is literally translated as fire, okay? But agni is not fire. Agni means it is more than fire, okay? So that means it is a devata swarupa. It's a form of a divinity in there, okay? When we say agni, fire is just a normal fire, any fire, okay? So when you say agni, it is as a divinity in it. So Agni Sakshi, for example, we say when during marriage time, it is Agni Sakshi, right? So Agni Sakshi means we don't say it is witness of fire. It is Agni Sakshi only, okay? Witness of fire is different. In the witness of fire is different. Agni Sakshi is different, okay? So that's why it is Agni here. Agni means in the Agni. Apare means others. Yajnam means again sacrifice. Yajnena means by sacrifice. Eva indeed. Upajihvati means offer. So now Acharya here explains this again as previously. I will continue explaining mainly using Sri Shankaracharya's Bhashya on Gita Bhashya, but also will use Sri Madhusudan Saraswati's Gita Bhashya as well, which is known as Gūಢārtha Deepika. So we will use that as well. So Gūಢārtha Deepika as well as Shankaracharya's Gita Bhashya as well. So Bhagavan here says that other yogis, so again, previously we looked at the one who is following the Jnana Yajna, right? Brahma, Mahabharata, and so on. So in that shloka, so that's one type. Here he says that the other yogis, the ritualists, they undertake the yajnas to devatas alone. They undertake the yajnas to devatas alone. Daivameva deva ityante yena yajnena aso daivo yajnaha. So Acharya here says that a sacrifice, an yajna by which devatas are adored is Daiva Yajna. They perform only that. These other yogis, they perform only that. That is the meaning here. So again, Daivam is meant for devatas, is that sacrifice through which devatas like Indra, Agni and others are adored. So other yogis who are the ritualists always undertake. So Paryupasate, Pari is undertaking. So they always undertake that very sacrifice, that yajna in the form of darsha, purnamasa, jyotisoma and so on. They undertake those type of yajnas, but not the sacrifice of jnana yajna in the form of jnana yajna, in the form of knowledge. So again, darsha, purnamasa, jyotisoma and various other sacrifices. Darsha is the sacrifice that's yajna that's during Amavasya day, performed on Amavasya. Purnamasa is the one that's done on Purnami day. Jyotistoma is another Soma sacrifice. So again, a type of it's a class. It's a sacrifice on its own type. So like that, there are different types of sacrifices. All those are performed with devatas in the view, right? With in which devatas are adored, Indra, Agni, and other devatas are adored. That type of sacrifices are performed by other yogis, some other yogis who are not in this Jnana Yajna. And Brahmagno, in the second half of the shloka, it is Brahmagno. The word Brahmagno is there, that is in the Agni of Brahman. So again, by the word Brahman here is meant that is meant Tat, Tattvamasi. Like in that word, we see Tat, right? So that Paramatma Tattva. So that is meant here. So which is referred again, that Brahman is referred in the Upanishads as well. Brahman, Satyam, Ajnanam, Anantam Brahma. Brahman is truth, knowledge, and infinite. So on, it's said in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And also in the Brihadaranyaka, for example, it says Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. Knowledge, bliss is Brahman. So those three Brahman. And then as well, Brihadaranyaka says that Yat Sakshat Parokshat Brahma Ya Atma Sarvantaraha. The Brahman that is immediate, direct, immediate and direct, that's the self that is within all. So that is the Brahman. And Acharya here says that, Bhagavad Pada here says that this Brahman, which is beyond all particular qualifications, which is like said in the Brihadaranyaka, for example, says that neti neti, not this, because you cannot describe that Brahman. So the only way to say is, whatever you say, is there Brahman? No, that is not the neti neti, not this, not this, not this. So like that Brahman, which is Ashanayadi Sarva Samsara Dharma Varjitam. So that Brahman, which is devoid of all worldly characters, like hunger and so on, whatever that are, those characters, it is devoid of all the worldly characters that we can describe. It can only be described as neti neti, not this, not this. Okay, so not this means whatever that comes to your indriyas, eyes, hearing, or skin, or whatever you can feel, that it is not that. So that Brahman is talked about here. It is Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. It is Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. So these, like this, the Upanishads, whatever those Upanishads says that Brahman, that is meant here as by the word Brahman. And that which is Brahman is the Agni. That which is the Brahman is the Agni. So is Brahmagno. And it is spoken as Brahmagni with the view of referring to that as again in which the offerings are made. So in that Brahmagni, so in that Brahman itself, that offerings are made. In that fire of Brahman, in that Agni of Brahman, in that Brahmagno. So this is again the second half of this shloka. In that Agni of Brahman, others, that is the others, knower of the Brahmans. So again, first half we looked at those who do not know Jnana Yajna, they perform with devatas to adore the devatas. They perform the sacrifices. In the second half, it talks about those who are knower of the Brahman. In that Brahmagni, they offer the Atma itself. So self, Yajnam, they offer Yajna. Upajihvati, Yajnam Upajihvati. Okay, so they are offering Yajna. Yajna again here, Acharya says that Yajna Shabdavachya Atma. So that Yajna is Atma itself, which is referred by the word Yajna here. Atma itself is referred. Atma namasu Yajna Shabdasya Patat. So having been presented as a synonym for the Atma itself, the Yajna here means as a synonym for the Atma itself. So they offer that Atma itself. Tam Atmanam Yajna Paramartha Parameva Brahma Santam Buddhyadupadi Samyuktam Adhyasta Sarvopadi Dharmakam Ahuti Rupam Yajnenaiva Atmayenaiva Upalakshanena Upajihvati Prakshipanti. So Acharya here says that Yajna, that is here referred by the word yajna, Atma itself, that Atma, that self, which is a sacrifice, which is a yajna, which is reality, certainly the Supreme Brahman, which is in reality, it is the Supreme Brahman, that Atma itself is the Supreme Brahman, which is associated with these upadhis, the adjuncts, limiting conditions, such as buddhi and so on. So, buddhi, manas, and so on, it is with these limiting conditions, this Atma is associated with this here, which is associated with all the qualities of the limiting of these upadhis superimposed on it. So Atmas on Atma, these conditions have been superimposed, and which is this oblation that's being poured here. They offer these other people who are the knowers of the Brahma. They offer that in yajnena, by the Atma itself, as described here. So what they do is, what the second of a shloka says this: these knowers of the Brahma, they continuously they worship their Atma itself. So the offering in the Brahmagno means there is nothing else for them, okay, to offer. They're only looking at that self, that Atma itself, Supreme Brahman itself. They are looking at that. So the offering of the Atma in that Brahman is nothing but the realization of the Atma, which is associated with these upadhis, to be the Supreme Brahman, which is free from adjuncts, right? So again, they are offering means they are offering their Atma to the Brahman, means it is the realization that whatever their Jivatma they see, that Jivatma, which is with all these upadhis, is nothing but, without those upadhis, it is the Supreme Brahman itself. And those sannyasis who are steadfast in that realization of that identification of that Brahman and the Atma, they make that offering. That's the meaning here. So they make that such an offering, which is they are in that complete in that jnana. So they have realized, and their realization itself is the yajna here. That's what being said here. So Sri Madhusudan Saraswati as well, he talks about the same thing, and he also mentions that Nirukta also, Yaksha Nirukta as well says that Yajna Shabda Atma Namasu Yaskena Patita. So he says that Yajna means Atma itself. So that's what says in the Nirukta as well. So again, having presented as a yajna the realization of the identity of the individual self, Jiva, and the Brahman, the realization of that, again, in the middle of the sacrifices that are indirectly means to that realization, is mentioned again it is mentioned later in the Gita as well, where Bhagavan says that in the 33rd shloka, he says that Shreyan Dravya Maya Yajna Jnana Yajna Parantapa and Sarvan. He like that he says knowledge considered as a sacrifice is greater than a sacrifice requiring materials. So like that, Bhagavan says later as well, when he concludes this sacrifices yajna's description, he concludes like that. Bhagavan says that. So like that, in the two verses here, Brahmarpam, Brahmahave, in that and in this verse, two kinds of sacrifices have been, the primary and secondary. Again, those have been shown here. Again, by Bhagavan, those have been shown. And in that verse, Brahmarpanam Brahmahave, the sacrifice characterized as a full realization is being included among such as sacrifices, Daiva Yajna and so on. This is to praise the Brahma, the realized sacrifice, the sacrifice related to Jnana Yajna. So praise that one. Bhagavan now starts explaining these sacrifices, other sacrifices like Daiva Yajna and other things he starts explaining. But again, in the 33rd shloka, he says that among all the sacrifices, Jnana Yajna is the greatest one. So, so that's why he starts describing various other type of sacrifices, and that sacrifices, types of sacrifices are yajnas. He says one of those things. He says two more here in this shloka, in the 26th shloka, where he says that Shrotradhin Indriyanyanye Samya Samyamagnishu Juhvati Shabdan Vishayan Anya Indriyagnishu Juhvati. So others offer the organs like ear and so on in the Agni of self-control, and others offer the objects like the sound and so on in the Agni of organs. So two things here. We will come to that in a second. So Shrotradini means Shrotra means hearing, such as the hearing process. That's the meaning. Indriyani means senses. Anya means others. Samyama means restraint or control. Agnishu means in the sacrificial Agni. Juhvati means sacrifice, offering. Shabdadin means sound, vibration, and so on. Vishayan means objects of sense gratification, whatever that senses are attracted to, or senses, the sense organs which sense those things. Anya means others. Indriya means of the senses. Agnishu means in the Agni. Juhvati means sacrifice. So offering in the sacrifice. So the explanation here again is there is two parts. One is the first half of the shloka talks about offering of the indriyas itself in the Agni. The second one offers about the Vishayas, like for example the sound or the food, which is the taste buds are looking for, things like that, offering that to the indriyas. Okay, so they offer that. So there's two parts to this. So we'll look at that here. Anye means others. So that is the other yogis. They offer, Juhvati means offer. They offer the organs like the ear and so on in the Agni of self-control, restraint. They offer in that. Samyama Agnishu means in the Agni of self-control. They offer in that. So again, Acharya here explains that, Bhagavad explains that the plural Agnishu is used because Pratindriyam Samyamo Vidyate iti Bahuvachanam. So he says that every Indriya is being offered here. Every sense organ is offered here. And that's why it is multiple Agnis mentioned. Okay, Agni plural is used. So self-control is possible with respect to each organs. So that's what Bhagavad explains here. That's why Agnishu is used as a plural. And Samyama eva Agneha. So self-control itself is the Agni. So Indriyas offering in the Agni means it is not that we cut our ears and put that in the fire. Okay, what here saying is Agni is the self-control. Self-control is considered, self-control is a synonym here for the Agni. Okay, so in a sacrifice, we offer ghee, right? We offer charu or whatever, we offer that into that Agni, sacrificial fire. Now, here, what the yogis are doing is they control their senses and they offer that in the Agni of Samyama. Okay, Samyama is controlling of those senses. Okay, so these Indriyas, hearing, seeing, or whatever it is, they offer that in the Agni of self-control. That means they control their sense organs. Their organs they control. Right? So Samyama eva Agniha. So these Agnis that's mentioned here, Agnishu, Samyama Agnishu, whatever that Agnishu multiple plural is used and multiple Bahuvachana is used here, all those Agnis are they are with respect to each of those organs, sense organs, and sense organs are controlled by those, controlling those sense organs. So the control, self-control itself is the fire, right? When we offer something, say a charu, or charu is rice cooked, okay? So with different things, but charu is plain, let's say rice cooked, okay? So that's when that offered, it burns, right? So here as well, similarly, this, through self-control, these indriyas are controlled, they are restrained, and in that they make the offering. So that is, they practice the control of the organs. So that's what the meaning is. The first half of the shloka says that they practice control of the organs, these yogis. Okay, so that's the meaning, and they are engaged in restraining the organs, the sense organs like those of hearing and so on, in the agni of self-control by withdrawing those sense organs from their objects. By the word again, samyama, are meant that Sri Madhusudan Saraswati in his Bhashya, in his Vakyana, he explains in his Good Artha Deepika, he explains that by samyama, here Bhagavan is mentioning the three things: dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Three things he is talking about. Dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation on that, samadhi is absorption. Okay, so they are aimed at the same goal, and those three are meant here. So it has been said, for example, in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, it is said that trayam ekatra samyama. So samyama means Patanjali says that trayam ekatra samyama. These, the three aiming the same object constitute samyama. That's what Patanjali Yoga Sutra says. So among them, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Dharana consists of fixing the mind for a long time in the lotus of the heart. So it is fixing the mind in the heart itself. So in the heart of when an object, in concentrating on something, fixing the mind on for a long time in one thing. And again, of the mind that is held in one place, when that mind is held in one place, dhyana, which is meditation, consists of in a current mental modification in the form of Bhagavan, interrupted now and then by the ideas of other forms. So again, dharana is just concentration, dhyana is again holding that in that place in the form of Bhagavan. So we see that Bhagavan in that. Then, but that dhyana, what happens is, it is interrupted now and then. So it is not continuous. Okay. So you will have dhyana, you will have mental picture of Bhagavan or a form of Bhagavan or something that's there in your heart and in your mind. It is, you are thinking about that for some long time, but it gets interrupted now and then by other things outside, interference or whatever. Even the mentally, it starts thinking something else. Okay, so that is dhyana. Dhyana is, you still hold for a long time, but it gets interrupted. But the third one mentioned here, samadhi, absorption, it is in a flow of ideas of the same kind, just like the dhyana, which is absolutely, it is uninterrupted by the other kind of ideas. So there is no other thoughts coming through in the mind. It is only in that tattva, that Paramatma tattva, it is in that, it stays in that. And that again, that samadhi is of two kinds. Okay, so again, we start here from Sri Madhusudan Saraswati. For this shloka and for the next 3-4 shlokas, he covers Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga. Okay, Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranam, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. So these 8 yogas, Sri Madhusudan Saraswati covers in this set of shlokas. So in this shloka, he covers Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi, how that links to the word Samyama, right? So we looked at Samyama is 3 parts, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So again, in that Ashtanga Yoga, the first 5 are Bahyendriya controls. So Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara. So these 5. Okay, so these are uh, Bhashya, that means outside external controls. Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, these are internal controls. Okay, Dharana again, concentration of the mind. Dhyana is again concentration of the mind for a long time on an object, Bhagavan, thinking about that. Samadhi is, there is no interruption, it's continuous one. That Samadhi is of types. Samprajnata Samadhi, Asamprajnata Samadhi. So again, that is in accordance with the different levels of the mind, how the mind is, it is depends on that. And Srimad Saraswati says that Chittasya hi pancha bhumayo bhavanti kshiptam moodam vikshiptam mekagram niruddham iti. So he says that the mind, so again, we looked at samadhis of two types, samprajnata and asamprajnata, depending on the state of mind, stage of mind. Okay, and that stage of mind is of 5 types. So where we started? We started with samyama. Samyama links to 3 yogas of Patanjali is mentioned: dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Okay, samadhi has 2 types: samprajnata, asamprajnata samadhi. And that samprajnata and asamprajnata samadhi depends on the how the mind, levels of mind, which stage of the mind is, okay, which phase it is. So how the manas is controlling. So it is depends on that. And that levels of mind is 5 stages. And that defines whether samprajnata samadhi is attained or asamprajnata samadhi is attained. Okay. So that 5 phases of our stages of mind is say Madhusudan Saraswati says that Chiptam Moodam Vikiptam Ekagram Niruddham. So he says that Kshipta, first one is Kshipta, which is the second one is Moodha, third one is Vikshipta, fourth is Ekagra, fifth is Niruddha. So Kshipta means scattered, Moodha means stupefied, Vikshipta means restless, Ekagra means one-pointed, Niruddha means restrained. So among them, so he says that Madhusudan Saraswati in his Vyakhyan he says that Ragadveshadi Vashad Vishayet Shvabhi Nivishtam Kshiptam Tandradi Tandradigrastam Moodam Sarvada Vishayasaktam Kadachin Dhyana Nishtam Kshiptad Vishayashishtaya Vikshiptam. So he says that the Kshipta type of level of stage of mind is the one that in which mind becomes engrossed in the object under the influence of likes and dislikes and so on. Moodha is the one in which it is overcome, mind is overcome by drowsiness and so on. It is Moodha, it is stupefied, it is so Kshipta is scattered by likes and dislikes and so on. It's influenced by various things, it's scattered various places. Moodha is the one which is stupefied, which is overcome by drowsiness and so on. In that situation, it is stupefied. And then Vikshipta is the one which is like Kshipta, but even though it is engrossed in the various objects, becomes occasionally engaged in dhyana. Even though it is scattered in various places, sometimes it can focus on things. That is Vikshipta mind. So of these 5 said, Kshipta, Moodha, Vikshipta, Ekagra, Niruddha, the first 3 we looked at, Kshipta, Vikshipta, Kshipta, Moodha and Vikshipta. These 3, there is no question of samadhi in this, because even in Vikshipta, there is a chance of occasionally going to dhyana, but not in samadhi state. So that's why when we said samprajnata samadhi, asamprajnata samadhi, and that depends on 5 levels of mind, 5 stages of mind, Kshipta, Moodha, Vikshipta, we can ignore that, because those are, there is no question of attaining samadhi state in that. The casual samadhi that may come in vikshipta mind, that is in the dhyana, while occasionally when engaged in the dhyana. However, it is not conducive to yoga because it is predominated by restlessness. On the other hand, it dies away itself like a lamp disturbed by the strong wind. So Srimad Saraswati says that even though in the Vikshipta there is a chance of occasional dhyana, which may come as a result as a casual samadhi, a little bit of samadhi state, but it is not good for the yoga because there is restlessness behind it. Okay, it is mind is still wandering around likes and dislikes and things like that, and but it sometimes it slightly focuses on the dhyana and it gets that, so it is not good. So it is not that good in attaining the samadhi state. However, it says that एकाग्रं तु एकविषयकधारावाहिकवृत्तिसमर्थं सत्त्वोद्रेकेण तमोगुणकृत तन्द्रादि रूपलया भावादात्मगार वृत्तिः. So he says that, however, the mind is said to be in the state of ekagra, the fourth stage of mind, which is in the ekagra, when it is capable of maintaining a continuous flow of modification with regard to a single object, thoughts about a single object, when so Dharavahika Vritti Samartham. So he says that Eka Vishayaka Dharavahika Vritti Samartham. So single object, okay, and continuous flow, Dharavahika. So it is like continuous flow of that thoughts it can maintain that, and when as a result of increase of the sattva guna, it has that modification in the form of atma on account of the absence of slackness, of drowsiness and so on, it is caused by the tamas. So that ekagra state comes when there is a continuous flow of thoughts on a single object, when there is increase in the sattva guna, so which comes in the form of again of atma state, thinking about that, and there is lack of or absence of drowsiness and things like that, the muda state, and all those things are kshipta, vikshipta, all those things, muda status have disappeared. That's when the ekagra state comes to, and that modification is again is concerned with one object only. That thought process is concerned about one object only, because the absence of vikshepa, in the absence of in the form of restlessness and things like that, those things are not there in this ekagra mind. So there is those restlessness have gone disappeared, because the disappearance of that vikshepa, the problem was it, even though it used occasionally can get into dhyana state, it used to get distracted by those restlessness, right? But here that has disappeared, and that's why, and that restlessness comes from the rajas and tamagunas. So that has disappeared. That rajas guna, the increase of the sattva guna has made sure that the rajas has disappeared or decreased, and that's why this single thought process continues, and hence mind becomes ekagra when its quality of sattva becomes pure. So again, sattva becoming pure, shuddha sattva. Okay, so it becomes very pure in that sattva state, and that's why it attains that ekagra. Asyam bhumo samprajnata samadhi. So that samadhi, when that ekagra, the continuous flow of single thought comes in, that samadhi is called samprajnata, that occurs in this ekagra level of the mind. And in that state, tatra deyakara vrittirapi bhasate. So in that state, the thoughts in the form of the object meditated also continue. So that's what Srimad Saraswati says, that in that ekagra state. So again, we all do dhyana, and our dhyana probably in the vikshepa state, right? Our mind is still restless, but it tries to do dhyana, dharana, and then dhyana at some stage occasionally. And if that continues and the restlessness disappears and Sattva-guna comes, increases, then and the Rajoguna removes all this the restlessness, which is the quality of the Rajoguna, disappears, and the slackness, drowsiness, all these things disappears, which is the caused by Tamoguna. All those things disappear. But Sattva-guna, Shuddha Sattva-guna comes, then this Samprajñāta Samadhi level can be attained in this Ekagra mind. Ekagra mind. In that state, Ekagra mind, Samprajñāta Samadhi can be attained. Now, we are left with the Asamprajñāta Samadhi, which is in the last state of the mind, which is again Niruddha state of the mind. We'll look at that next time. And continue this shloka again next time when we gather. Thank you.